Alright, so there isn't much I really want to talk about in this video, just a little bit of feedback regarding a few changes in the core combat update as UB asked for it. I'm sure there isn't much for me to really add to the discussion, as it seems like a lot of people are pretty much on the same page when it comes to a few of these changes. There are only a few things I really want to talk about now that I've went through all the heroes in the game and looked at all the changes for myself, so that's what we're going to be doing today. It's been a long while since the last testing grounds, the one that introduced the changes to us, and while it wasn't perfect, a lot of us agreed that it was certainly a step in the right direction, and we were hopeful that with all of our feedback and whatnot, that when the changes got another phase or were actually delivered to us, we'd undoubtedly be playing a better game. We'd be able to attack more freely now that we seem to be really focused on offense, not worry as much about stamina, having crazy damage numbers toned down, things like that. They were good to the point where a lot of you guys and people I know were just taking a break from the game, that you were just finished with the current version of the game and would come back when we could play the updated version and enjoy all of this stuff again after it's been honed in on and improved. And in some places, we see good. Some of the feat changes are good, the removal of the stamina penalties are a good thing, but then you start playing and really start feeling the changes to stamina, specifically light attack stamina, and you're like, oh, I'm already out of stamina. Heroes with double lights and Shaolin with a triple light especially are really noticing it. I'm not really sure how things like that got through. One set of attacks shouldn't take that much stamina from you, especially guaranteed attacks. And I can't exactly put my finger on the feeling, but it's not a good feeling. Throwing lights feels off with these changes. We know why they did it and all, but still. At first, I sort of brushed it off. Even when we first heard about it on stream, I heard 12 stamina and was like, okay, sure. But after playing for a while, you really notice it. I'm hoping that UB takes a look at this again and just changes the number from 12 to something else. Because even when I was playing today, I found myself watching my stamina after throwing lights, as it'll drain unexpectedly fast. And then we take a second to look at damage values and we're left scratching our head at some of these damage values. I think that some of them are good. There are attacks that have good damage numbers for sure. And when I first started messing around with heroes and looking at their damage, I felt as though we were getting somewhere. I was seeing some lower damage initially and thought things were alright. I was confused, but figured they're okay. And then yesterday I sat down with you guys and we went through just about every attack in the game. And after doing so, there are a few damage values that really leave me at a loss. I generally try to understand the reasoning behind changes if we don't have patch notes available or if they just don't explain anything, but there are some things that I just don't have an answer for. I can't come up with an answer. Again, I was under the impression that damage numbers would get lower across the board, especially with some of the other changes coming to the game, but that didn't happen. Somehow we see damage values higher than before, especially as we get later in the chains, and then we see some damage values that are just too low. Zone attack damage has been generally lowered, and the only thing I can really think about is option selects. Maybe they lowered the damage so much to combat zone option selects in some way. If that's the case, alright I guess, but that sort of ignores that zones are used for more than just option selects. Then we look at individual damage values that need to be worked on. First thing that comes to mind is something like Peacekeeper's side dodge heavies. Yeah, dodge attacks have been looked at as well, but I just cannot get behind 5 base damage. I thought the game was messed up or something when I saw 5 damage. Yes, you can apply bleed and bring the total up to 16, but I remember a change a while ago that was to help Peacekeeper finish more people with heavies, but with a side dodge heavy doing 5 base damage, it will rarely take anyone out without bleed. On the opposite end, we see Warden with a 44 damage heavy finisher. That is way too much damage. I've been actively avoiding multiplayer recently, or at least before this patch, just so I wouldn't get burnt out before this update. And lower damage was one thing I was really looking forward to. That and feat changes, which we'll get into at another time, but we really don't need 44 damage finishers. Centurion's unblockable pin does 40 damage. Again, way too much, and it's something that he uses all the time. Pair that with a wall and haymaker and he's getting 55 damage. That doesn't even consider if he has a teammate nearby who can capitalize on some free damage. Eagle's Talon does 40 damage as well, which should have been lowered also. Highlander's offensive stance heavies deal 37 damage. I thought that would be lowered. Kinsey gets 34 damage with his chain heavies and 34 from a guard break. Yorm got a damage increase. Blackprior's Bulwark Slash does 35 damage, and we all know how useful that move is. Shaman's unblockable, doing 41 damage, you know, things like that. I even think Warmonger's damage is even on the high side. Not every attack, of course, but her heavy chain finisher and heavy bash follow-up. Not going to mention her feats right now, but I think that those damage values can be looked at. Then we see heroes like Conqueror, the supposed heavy hitter, whose flail uppercut, you know, the full block follow-up, does 15 damage. I don't know why. 7 damage is on, with all the following swings doing 3 damage. I don't want to go through every little thing, but you get my point. I just think that UB should seriously look at each damage value in the game again. Don't try to standardize or anything like that, and don't do whatever process you did this time. Just go through each and every attack in the game and give the damage values another look. Again, I don't think that each attack is bad. There are some fair values here, but there's plenty that can be looked at again. It wouldn't take too long to look through each attack and give them their own fair value dependent upon their attributes. So their speed, hitbox, whether or not the attack is an unblockable, does it have armor, is it a neutral light or heavy, is it in a chain or is it a chain finisher, how is it accessed, what is it behind, you know, things like that. And then play with those, test them out, check out how long fights are lasting, does anything feel too weak or too strong, how often are people earning revenge, does that need to be tweaked to feel better, so on and so on. I don't know if they do things like this. I'd assume so. I hope so. I was really hoping that the patch notes would, you know, let us know the thought process behind some of these changes, because right now it feels as though some of these values were actually drawn randomly, like from a hat. They just put the numbers in a hat and pulled them, but they didn't leave much feedback in the patch notes either. And it shouldn't really feel this way after all this time with an update that is supposed to seriously alter and improve the fighting. I don't think the entire update is a wash, as I said, but I know that things could be improved upon, and I'm really hoping that UB hops onto things quickly, especially with Warmonger in the game now and her feats splitting fights up and controlling mid all on its own. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. Not much I wanted to talk about today. I'll probably end up talking about more stuff again after the update drops and we all get to play together, but I wanted to talk about this while we're still in early access. As always, I do want to know what you guys think, so be sure to talk to me down in the comments about anything we talked about in this video. And as always, if you like the video, feel free to leave a like and sub if you're new, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.